Hello and welcome back to the channel with me, the Orienteering Kid, where today we're in Brno for the second round of the A category for TORUS Season 3. Yes, we are here for Event 2 of the third season of the TORUS Cup, a month-long series organised by course setters from all around the world and can be found here on the Tempo simulator, the link to which can be found in the description of this video. So today we are in Czechoslovakia for an event organised by Pavel Patakek and Jan Furux's advising, and if you can think back to the Central European Training Week, you'll remember that the final event in that series was Pavel's first ever planned event. So this is going to be his second ever event. His first one was really good, and I think as a first event as a planner I thought it was really good and had some very interesting technical aspects which did make me think quite a lot. So I am expecting today's to be of a very high standard again and should be some very interesting trailers. So let's just jump straight into it now, going into the TORUS Season 3 Spring 21 section and the Advanced section as well, and going to Day 2, which today is a 1 to 3000 map with 2.5 metre contours. There's going to be 8 stations with a 30-second penalty for every wrong answer, and the zero tolerance is 4 metres and no side problems. So for an answer to be a 0, it's going to have to be 4 metres away from the actual location. The terrain is urban and park, similar to Pavel's first event, and the instructions are that there are drawn flags with bright red arrows over the less visible ones, so they are going to be superimposed and not real kites. We have black cross being the playground equipment, and small trees with wooden supports are not mapped. So sometimes when trees get first planted they have wooden supports around them to make sure they grow properly, but any trees around them will not be mapped, so we have to remember that. And just also remembering the playground equipment is the black crosses. As always, my answers will be appearing in the top right hand corner of the screen, so you can see exactly what I'm putting, correct or wrong, with the black and red letters respectively at the moment that I do. And yeah, with that, let's have a go at the second round of this TORUS Cup. And here is Station 1. Okay, is the bush with the paths, there's a few trees, play equipment by Echo, that tree back there. Is there a path going under there? No, that's got to be Charlie. I believe that's the wrong play equipment, and that's the wrong inlet of the bush. That's really got to be Foxtrot, and that bush there. Oh, have I just made a mess of this? Yeah, that one's Delta. Okay, I've definitely made a mistake to start today. When I first saw it I thought Echo was going to be on the wrong play equipment, the one on the left hand side of the 3, but I do actually think it was the middle 3 and the answer to that one is Echo. So that is an interesting start, and I did realise that at the final task. But everything else did seem to come nicely, with the Charlie tree to start with did go to Echo, and then the 0 on the wrong inlet of the bush I thought was quite nice, and I did manage to notice that one. And then it was really when we came to Foxtrot that I realised my mistake at the second task and going to Delta. I'm pretty certain with that for the final one. So yeah, that station could have gone better, but there's still a lot of time to make up for it, as we've still got 7 stations to go, so we will now go on to Station 2. Okay, there's the canopy potentially with a wall, Alpha Bravo with Alpha stair, or Bravo at the stairs. I feel like that's the wrong section, yeah. And that puts that as Foxtrot. I also feel like we can't see that. There is Alpha, and on the top of there is Delta. And that was a good second station. The 0 right at the start of it would have thrown quite a few of you, but I wasn't really looking closely enough to see what kite they were trying to make you put, as I think it was clear to me that all the kites were going to be in the area above where the control circle was, and then everything else did seem to fit from there. The third one being a 0 I think was fairly clear, as it was meant to be the other side of the staircase by Charlie, and so we wouldn't have been able to see it, and Alpha on the paved area junction on the left hand side, and Delta up on the inside of the fence. So I think that was a very good station as a second one. I think the first one might have caught some people out. We will have to see later, but we will now move on to Station 3. Okay, the paths in that shape of Foxtrot's right down there. That junction, I believe that's going to be Echo. And I believe that's, I've kind of got to believe that's Bravo. That staircase there, I don't believe that's the right one. Sand pit, yeah, that's got to be Delta. and that's the wrong bush. And that was another good station. I do think there were a couple of interesting zeros in that, both being parallel errors, the third one being on the wrong set of stairs. I don't think we should be able to see the first set of stairs because it was coming forward from where Echo was for the first task, and Foxtrot seemed to be behind where Echo was for the first task in terms of how far back in the photo it was. And also the final task being a zero, I'm pretty sure it was, as I noticed when I put Bravo that Alpha was on the next bush along from where Bravo was towards us, and we wanted 2 bushes towards us from where Bravo was. So I think that one was clear as a zero, and I do think that was another good station. So we will now move straight on to station 4. Okay, there's a load of fences. There's stairs on the right hand side. Those are the fences. Can that be Foxtrot? I think that has to be Foxtrot. Thicket. Let's go with Charlie. In that gap. Echo's definitely in that gap. Coming around here. I think that's got to be a zero. And that fence is Delta. And that was definitely a much more interesting station than the previous 3, with just a load of crags in a viewing angle. So it was clear at the start that we were in the right place, but trying to place all the different kites somewhere in there, I just had to try and do them one at a time as the tasks came up. And I don't think that went too bad at all, with Foxtrot to start with, as I'd noticed Foxtrot on the stairs, and then we went round them, and with the zero being between Alpha and Bravo, I think that was quite clear as well. So yeah, I don't think that station was too bad at all. I do think it was a nice one to try and throw people though, as for me it was a bit slower than the previous 2. But yeah, we're just passing the halfway point now as we go on to station 5. Okay, Alpha Bravo Charlie on the left hand side. This is quite a wide angle. So that's got to be the building. Those are the 3. So I think that's a 0. That wall, building at the back, is the wrong corner of that building. That fence corner's got to be Alpha. And that hedge is Foxtrot, and that junction in the wall I'm going to say is also a 0. And that was actually a more difficult station with the wide angle, and the first 2 tasks there being zeros, I think they were zeros, definitely could have taken a lot of time for people to get, with the first one being a tree behind the walls that I'd seen Alpha Bravo and Charlie on, as I'd identified the building pretty much straight away that was right in front of us, and then moving across to the other side of the building with Echo being on the wrong corner of that building. I reckon quite a lot could have gone with Echo straight away, but I did notice it was on the wrong corner. And then also the final one being a 0, I'm pretty sure it was, as I'm pretty sure Charlie was on an end rather than a corner. We will have to look at that afterwards. Personally, I don't think I've got anything wrong in that station at the moment. So we will now move on to the next station of the day, which is station 6. Okay, nicely labelled Delta and Echo with the walls. That's going to be quite nice to use. I can believe that's Alpha. That's definitely the wrong tree. Oh no, I have got this wrong. Oh no, I haven't. Bravo at the top of the stairs. Echo at the back. Yeah, that's definitely Echo. And that's the wrong one. And that one psychologically played with me quite a bit actually. I was certain that the first one was going to be Alpha, but then when we went to the second task and I was certain that was a 0, we then came back and I was doubting it for a small bit, but then I noticed I was actually correct, I'm pretty sure, and it did go Alpha 0, and then Bravo seemed to fit quite nicely as the top of the stairs, going back to Echo for the 4th task, and then the 5th one being Delta or 0, I think it was definitely on the wrong bush, so I'm happy with that one, that I haven't made any mistakes, but I think that could have thrown you quite a bit, and that was some very good core setting actually. I did like that station a lot. But now we are on to the penultimate station of the day, which is station 7. Okay, trees with the 2 circles, play equipment at the back there. There's the 6th kite. Right at the back. No kites are going to be back there, surely. That copse has to be Charlie. With that play equipment is not on the photo. Top of the hill is Delta, and that tree I can believe is Bravo. And that was another good station, and I think this one actually was a 0 on the wrong play equipment, because I think the piece of play equipment that Foxtrot was on was actually mapped as a fence, and I can believe that actually. Looking at the type of play equipment it was, that fitted. I thought that first task was quite an interesting one to start with though. I had noticed the small circles of land with Alpha and Echo on them, and so when I saw that island miles away from where the two kites were, I was fairly happy to say that was a 0. I just wanted to check it quickly, but we saw the hill of Delta a lot closer to us, and that made everything fit a lot better, and then everything else came in from there. We went to the hill of Delta actually at one point, and the copse of Charlie, and also the tree of Bravo. So I am happy with that station again, and we will now go on to the final station of the day, which is station 8. Okay, it's a load of hills really. It's a lot different to the final one. There's depression, which is going to be the key thing. Depression, null, 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 earth bank. See, I'm believing that one is Bravo. Oh no, but that's got to be the hill. I think Bravo might be on a mapped null. I don't think that's Delta. I think that spur is going to be Echo. Coming back to the null, I'm pretty sure that's a 0. And bush over there. That's the wrong bush. And that last station, definitely being my longest of the day, was very tough, and it was mainly placing the first null, but I do believe Bravo was on an unmapped null. But we will see that afterwards. Let's go and have a look at my answers though. And with station 1, this is definitely where my error came, but it didn't come in the first task, because what I saw here was a massive patch of field with 2 trees in it, and there's potentially a bush with a path coming by Bravo, and what you get here is a massive field with actually 3 trees in it. So this one must be this side of the path as well, but those are those 2, with this tree being the one there. And then what we want is a tree the other side of the Bravo bush, which you can see here, and the only massive tree back there does seem to be the Charlie tree. You can see the small tree just there, which is the one on the edge of the circle, so that does fit very well as Charlie being on the southern side of that tree. I'm happy with that one as Charlie. And then we come to the second task, which I thought was a mistake, but maybe it's not. I originally saw Echo on the left hand of these 3 bits of play equipment here, and maybe it actually is, because if we are stood here looking through, there's going to be a bush here that's behind this bush obscuring the second piece, so maybe this one is a 0. I feel like we're here looking through, and that puts Echo on this one. I think that one might actually be a 0 now. I don't know why that was playing in my head the final task, so I'm going to say that one's a 0 because Echo's on the left hand one, and we can't actually see the one that we want to be able to see as it's back there. So yeah, I'm sticking with that one as a 0 now. And then we came to the bush of Bravo, and we wanted the eastern part of the open land in there, but if you look at where the centre of the circle is and the indents in the hedge, we want the second indent as we come from the path, and here we only go into one indent to get to Bravo, so the second indent's going to be back there, and this one is definitely a 0 as I want it further to the left of Bravo. And then we come forward, and looking at this bush being the one here and the 2 trees over here, the 2 trees are going to point towards the bush that we want. The 2 trees kind of point towards the foxtrot bush, and there's a small little indent in the bush there, which does look like that corner there, and so I'm very happy to say that that one is foxtrot on that small little indent. And then finally we go to the one that took me a bit more time, as I was debating my answer to 12 while trying to put Delta, but I think this one is very clear as Delta. If you look at where this tree is on the left hand side of the circle, we go across to the bush, and so I'm very happy with that one being Delta, with the tree on the map also being the small one back there. And that does round off a station, but now I'm thinking I didn't actually make any mistakes in that station, and 12 is actually a 0 rather than Echo, so I am happy with that one now. We will have to see later though. The next few stations I am a lot happier with though, going to station 2, and I thought this one was a very interesting one as the second station, because if you're just looking at this area, the northwestern inside corner of a wall could easily be Echo, because that is just right in front of us and that seems to fit, and if you were going quickly I think you would have put that straight away. However, there are some clues to point out that it isn't that. For example, if you look over where Foxtrot is, the paved area does go further round and down some stairs potentially, or you can see some stairs stairs there. And if you look here, if we're following from where we think Echo might be, we just hit a wall. There's nothing further around there, and so that should be immediately telling you this is a 0. So where could we be instead? Well, there's only one tree on the map, and there is only really one massive tree here as a distinctive tree. There's a staircase round there with Bravo, seeming to fit with the staircase there, meaning Echo is probably on this corner instead, and the corner we want is going to be miles out to the left hand side of the photo. So that one is definitely a 0. I thought it was a good 0 to bring us in on, and I think could have tricked quite a few of you. And then people would have realised your mistake going to the second task as we move to the southwestern outside corner of a wall, and I'm pretty sure that one is Foxtrot, as I had placed Echo there. With the tree being there as well as the other side of the road, we work our way up and we do get to Foxtrot. And then the other 0 in this station, we move to the Charlie Delta area, as with Echo and Foxtrot being in this bit, we go further west and we reach these two kites. And actually the control description says inside corner of a copse, and I hadn't actually noticed there is some white there in the circle, but I do think it's the wrong patch of white, because the area where Charlie is in this wall corner here, in the corner with the stairs, and Delta is just on the top here as well. So we are going further back to some trees right back there, and that one is definitely a 0. And then we go to some paved area, and we want the southeastern inside corner of this paved area, and it's by the tree. So looking at where the tree is, the only kite really by the tree closer to us is going to be the Alpha kite, and there's definitely a boundary of paved area and open land there, so I'm very happy with that one being Alpha. And then finally we go across to the paved area by Charlie and Delta again, and we want the northwestern inside corner here, so it's going to be the top level, and Delta is on the top level. So I was happy to say that one was Delta to finish the station, and to me that was a slightly easier station than the first task, but there were a couple of tricks again, especially with the first task in this station being a parallel error 0, and that is a common theme as we go through the stations, especially as we go into station 3, because I think there were 2 here. But the first task in this station was identifying the northeastern inside corner of this paved area, and what have we got to work with? Well, there's only one crossable fenced area in the map, and this really was my anchor, spotting the fencing going around here with the small bits of play equipment inside it. So that's got to be this bit, and we want the right hand side of that fence, and the only kite really close enough could be Echo. And actually looking with the zoom slightly to the right of the bush as well, the cane of the Echo kite definitely goes into the paved area there, so I'm very happy to say that one was Echo to start it off. And then this one made me think a bit longer going to the second task, but we want the northern thicket and we want the southwestern side of it. So coming across from the fence, there is one thicket just at the other side of the path. I'm pretty sure it's that thicket, and then we get a bit of woodland, which is those couple of trees there as the white, and then the next thicket along is definitely the thicket which Bravo is on the southwestern side of. So I'm certain that one is Bravo for the second task. And then coming down to the set of stairs for the third task, I was debating between Foxtrot and 0 for a small bit, but I was fairly happy to say this one was Foxtrot. If we can see this staircase, it's going to be further forward than Echo for the first task, and if you come down the hill, we're going to go out the photo to the right hand side. So I am fairly certain that Foxtrot is actually at the foot of the stairs of this second staircase, and I believe this one is a 0. That may be wrong though, we will see that afterwards, but I'm fairly certain it is. And then we go to the sand pit in the middle of the fenced area, and there's only one kite in the middle of the fenced area. I had to look at this slightly because I saw the control description saying southeastern inside corner, and I originally wanted it on the back corner instead, but then realising that north is going to the left, I reorientated myself and realised that Delta was in the southeastern inside corner, so I'm very happy with that one as Delta. And then the final task brought us to a thicket right in front of us, and I do believe quite a lot will have gone with Alpha here because it's on a thicket kind of right in front of us. However, if you look where the Bravo task was, we want to go over the path to a thicket, and then we want the next thicket along. So going over a path to a thicket, that puts Alpha on the first thicket. The next thicket along is going to be this one, and I think that is definitely 5 meters away. So I'm very confident that one is a 0 to finish the station, and I do think that was another good station with a few more parallel error 0s, which I don't mind. I think that definitely makes it challenging, but there was a lot to help guide you in that station. Then moving on to the fourth station, it did change quite a lot, but I do like the fact that it did change halfway through. It did make it tough to try and adjust yourself, but with this first task we wanted the junction of 2 paths, and so how are we going to work out where we are, because we have just got a line of crags? Well, the crags do end, and we just have this flat area of paved area, and that does seem to be this paved area here. So we're going next to the building on the right hand side of the photo, and we're going up the first set of stairs before the second set. And if we go up the first set of stairs, we do come to Foxtrot. There is a gap in the wall on the right hand side, and so I think that's probably where the path comes in, so Foxtrot is on the junction of the 2 paths, and that one is Foxtrot. And then we go across to the corner of the fence, and the kite kite is going to be within this thicket. So if you look at where the thicket is, with the stairs going up with Delta on the right hand side, just being obscured by the circle, you go up the thicket and you see that Charlie is on an eastern inside corner, and so I think that one is definitely Charlie, as it's on the junction of the fences as well. And then moving on to the third task, we wanted between two fences, and we are going to cross two fences to get to this gap in the third. And so in looking up the right hand side, we have one fence, two fences, and then there's a gap in the third, and Echo is very nicely placed in the gap. So I was happy to put Echo for that one. I think that's fairly clear as being in the right place. And then we come to this one, and again I'm happy with this one being a 0, as here we want a crag rather than a fence. And I think quite a lot might have put Bravo here if you weren't reading the centre of the circle properly, thinking it's on this one down here. It's the one that they want you to put, as Bravo's definitely on the northern part of it as well, but it is on this front fence, and we actually want a crag, and you can see the sort of rocky bit back there behind Bravo, which is where we actually want the kite. So I was happy to say that one was a 0. It was my joint longest task in the station, but well done if you did manage to get that one right. And then for the final task, we wanted the southeastern end of a fence, and if you look at the shape of the stairs around it, we're going to go up one from the lowest level, and then there's going to be a junction of 2. So if you go up the one, you can see there is a junction of 2 going up to the right and left hand side, and so we want the fence on the left hand side of that junction, and that does seem to be where the Delta kite is, on the southeastern end of that fence. So I was happy to put Delta to finish off that station. And as a station in the middle of the competition, it definitely threw me, as it was a lot different to the previous 3, and I do really like that, trying to change the pace, and I do think it was very good. And then another fairly different station was the 5th one, and it did take me a small while to spot all the kites, as I noticed Alpha, Bravo and Charlie were all together on the left hand side, and then Delta, Echo and Foxtrot were all together on the right hand side with nothing in the middle. And what we wanted here was a tree, and we want the southeastern side of that tree. But firstly, where are we actually stood? Because we just have a building right in front of us, and that could be any of these buildings really, but what I did see was the monument in front of the building, and that is this black circle with the black dot in front of the building. So that placed me very nicely there on the road. We go round the corner to the left hand side to this tree, so it's going to be Alpha, Bravo, Charlie or 0. But if you look where Charlie is, Charlie I believe is on the end of this wall, with Bravo on the tree thicket thing and Alpha on the corner of the fence, which puts this tree behind Charlie and Bravo, probably that tree there. So I think this one was definitely a 0 to start off the station. And then for the second task, we wanted a corner of a building, so we're going to the other side of the building, which I'm presuming is a church, and we go past the wall, and we want the corner of the building the other side of the wall. So Echo is the only plausible kite here on the corner of the building, but if you look to the left hand side of Echo, you can see there is another corner of a building sticking up above the wall there, and I think this is the corner we actually want, as there are 2 corners on this building. That puts Echo on the right hand corner, and we want the left hand one, so it is definitely a 0 there. And then for the third task, we want the corner of the fence, and we're going off to the left hand side of the building again, and in saying these 3 kites before, we had already put Alpha on the corner of that fence, so I'm pretty happy that that one is Alpha. And then we come to the right hand side of the photo again. Notice we are going back and forth, so you are losing concentration on the location of some of these kites. And here we want the southern end of a hedge, and it's going to be just after the wall. So just after the wall there is a hedge there with Foxtrot on it, and I'm pretty certain that Foxtrot is on the southern end of that hedge. So that one was good as Foxtrot, also as a distractor for this final task, which you can see took me the longest time. And we want the southern outside corner of the wall, but before I placed Charlie on the end of the wall with Bravo on the thicket and Alpha on the corner of the fence, so none of them are going to be the correct location. The corner of the wall is going to be behind Charlie, probably about there maybe, and so that one is definitely a 0. And really these middle 2 stations, stations 4 and 5, were the most interesting for me, and definitely varied up the terrain for today. And this one especially having 3 zeros, I think quite a lot of people might have been caught out by at least one of them, so well done if you did manage to get all of those right. And then for the 6th task, this is where I started doubting myself for the 3rd task, but I am fairly certain with my answers now. For this first one, we want the outside corner of the building, specifically the northwestern corner, and if you're looking at it, Alpha and Echo are definitely on northwestern outside corners of buildings. It's another parallel feature problem, and it could be either of them. So how do we know which one it's going to be? Well, what I spotted was the linear thicket here with Delta and Bravo either end of it, and that's going to be this one here, because if we're going to be on the next one up, that has a lot more open land in it. Admittedly, we could be on the one even further up, but then not many kites are going to be on the photo, and also this tree is a lot bigger than just a small dot. I think it's this bigger one here, so I'm fairly happy to say that one is going to be Alpha to start us off, as it's on the left hand side of the linear thicket. And then we go to a tree, and it's a fairly distinctive tree, and we want the northwest northwestern side of it, and I was very quick to put 0 because I was happy that Alpha was here. And I think that is definitely a 0, as this tree is opposite the linear thicket as this one, and the tree we want is going to be a long way out the photo on the next indent along in the road, so I'm happy with that one being a 0. But then I was doubting myself moving to 63, as the map didn't seem to move much at all. I think this is mainly due to the fact that so many things in this map look exactly the same, but the previous task was definitely on this tree with Foxtrot on this one. Alpha is here, and we want the top of the stairs just west of Alpha. So that is really going to be Bravo. The cane does end on the paved area rather than the bottom of the stairs, so I'm very happy with that one being Bravo. And then moving to the fourth task, we want the northwestern outside corner of a building again, and the only other kite that isn't Alpha on that description is Echo. And so we've spotted the linear thicket here. We're going to the right hand side of the linear thicket, going right to the back, and so I'm very happy to say that that one is Echo back there. And then for the final task, we do move to a thicket, and we want the southeastern side of that thicket, but we want the eastern thicket, and the thicket that Delta's on is this linear thicket closest to the road, and so is the western thicket. So the eastern thicket's going to be to the left hand side of Delta, and that one is definitely a 0 to finish off the station. So that was definitely one of the harder stations for me to grasp, even though it was my second quickest station, because task 2 seemed to throw me quite a bit. So well done if you did manage to do that one quicker. I think someone definitely could have. And then moving on to station 7, it changed again as we went to more of a parkland area like the first couple of tasks. And for this first one, we just want it in the centre of a copse, and I think quite a few might have actually gone with Echo for this one, looking at it, as there is potentially a copse here with Echo in it. However, when I first saw this photo, I was struggling to see 6 kites as I hadn't spotted the Delta kite yet, but I had seen the fence, and I had seen these 2 little circles with the trees in them, and there was potentially a third circle here. So when the map came up, I saw the fence, I then spotted Delta on the top of that hill, and that fits there. And then at the bottom of the map, you can see these 2 circles with the 2 trees in them, and the third one with a couple of trees next to each other with Echo in the middle. So this circle is going to be miles away, a long way past Charlie with the tree in the thicket, all the way back there, and that one is definitely a 0. It was one of the longest tasks for me to get, but I do think that was good as a 0. And then we came forward to a copse, and I was fairly happy that we were in the right place now. We want the south side of that copse, and with the 2 circles there, with Alpha being in one of them, it's going to be opposite that. There's a few trees there. Charlie's on the south side of them. I'm very happy with that one being Charlie, especially with their canopies being massive. I can imagine that all being mapped as white. And then we move to the sandy area of the playground, and we want the western side of some play equipment. And immediately I was looking at Foxtrot and thinking this is the second bit of play equipment along, so it could be Foxtrot. But then I saw the fence between these 2 bits of play equipment and thought actually that's more likely to be mapped as a fence than it is a play equipment. And looking at where it is in relation to the out of bounds garden area, it's more to the left of it than the play equipment that we seemingly want. So I think this play equipment is actually going to be out the photo, and I'm fairly happy with that one being a 0. I do think that was quite hard though, and I think quite a lot might have made the mistake there. We will see. And then we go to the hill that we did say Delta was on the top of before, inside the fence, so I'm very happy to say that this one is Delta. And then finally we move to the tree to the left hand side of this fenced area, and it's got a thicket behind it, and we want the southwestern side of it. So looking at that, Bravo's on the southwestern side of a tree with a thicket behind it. So I think that one is definitely Bravo to end off the station. I do think that was another good station, especially the first 0 making us think, but I do think it was clear it was a long way away. And then for the final station of the day, we really got thrown into something nothing like any of the other tasks, and so it did take a lot of working out what could be mapped here. But what I originally saw when the photo came was a few knolls to the left hand side, a couple of bumps to the right hand side, Foxtrot's right down by the road, and there is a depression here. This was the key thing, as when the map loaded there is only 1 depression on the map. It's fairly big, and so I'm happy with that being the depression right in the front of the photo. So this knoll is going to be to the left hand side of this depression, but just to the left hand side. But here there could be 4 knolls because there's 4 different bumps, but there's only 3 maps, so which one isn't going to be mapped? I think that's going to be the Bravo knoll because it's definitely the smallest. So these 3 are going to be mapped. That does fit the triangle shape quite nicely. You can also see the earth bank behind Charlie. It does go quite close to Charlie, and then there's also a hill potentially there with a man sticking out the top of it, I just noticed. And then moving back through there we have the re-entrance with Echo on the spur next to it. There is also a knoll at the top of that re-entrance, and then an earth bank with Delta on top of it. So that all seems to fit with Bravo being an unmapped knoll, and that does put Charlie on the one we want. With the control description just saying knoll, we do want the top of that knoll, and so I'm very happy to say that one is Charlie to start the station. But I do think that was quite tough to get to, and did take me half the time in the station to get there, even with this very good anchor to start with. And then we go out to a spur at the back, and the only plausible thing here is we're working our way back to the re-entrance re-entrant, and the Earth bank of Delta is Delta. However, I do think Delta's definitely on the Earth bank, and the spur we want is going to be behind the Earth bank. So I'm very happy to say that one is a 0 back there. And then we came forward to the re-entrant, but we don't want the re-entrant, we want the spur next to the re-entrant. So looking at the re-entrant going up to the knoll, Echo is definitely on a spur to the right hand side of it. And there is also a tree without any fencing behind it, which is the mapped one. So I'm very happy to say that one is Echo. And then the fourth task takes us to another one of the 3 knolls. And I do think quite a lot might put Bravo here, as you may just see these 3 bumps and say Bravo's on the back one to the left. However, I do think Bravo's definitely on the unmapped one, and this is the knoll we actually want. So I am fairly happy to say that one is a 0, but I may be wrong, we'll see that afterwards. And then finally we went to a thicket, a long way away from the other 4 tasks, so we know this is going to be Foxtrot or 0. But how do we distinguish whether it's Foxtrot or 0? Well, the key thing for me here is there is a massive tree, and that could only really be this tree here, and Foxtrot is further north than that tree, so it's going to be on this thicket here instead. There's a thicker thicket further down, that is the actual thicket we want, I think, as it's more in line with where Delta is as well, going down the hill. And so I do think that was a 0 to finish off the day, and I do think this was a very interesting day today, especially with stations 4, 5 and 8 being a lot different to the rest. It threw me for a bit, and that final station being the hardest by far and a lot different to the previous 7. I think it was another very good course set by Pavel, so thank you again for doing that, but I don't think I have made any mistakes apart from maybe 12, which I am still debating a bit in my head, but I'm fairly certain it is a 0 now. But let's go and have a look at where I am in the overall leaderboard, and you will see that I am in first, so I have actually made no mistakes, I'm guessing. I'm very happy with that. I think already, actually looking at my club, we have 3 MDocs in the top 10 with Dom in 6th and River in 10th, so this could actually be a very good day for us overall, but we will see whether all of this holds as we come back afterwards for the overall results. And we are back to see that I haven't just held on to first place, I have ended up winning the event by 36 seconds. And to be honest, I don't really know how I did that. I know I'd done it quick, but I didn't realise I'd quite done it that quick. And the fact that I had no mistakes, and I think only 3 people ended up doing it with no mistakes, that definitely helped to reduce my time compared to some others. But yeah, I have ended up winning, with Severin coming in second, and Marcelo only being 3 seconds behind Severin. So well done to the 2 of them for getting into the medal positions as well. I would normally do where we're first place won the event here, but I don't personally feel too comfortable about doing it today because I won. So we will just move straight to the percentages, and the most interesting thing to me from the percentages today was Station 6, which had 2 percentages fairly low, one below 50% and one just below 60%. This was the one with the parallel errors, and I think there could have been many different answers to all these tasks, but 3 of them people managed to get, being the first one Alpha on the corner of the building, Bravo at the top of the stairs, and then 0 on the wrong bush, not being Delta at the end. But then with the other 2 tasks, the second one being 0 rather than Foxtrot, more people went with Foxtrot than 0, but only 6 people went for a different answer. So it's definitely clear it was between Foxtrot or nothing. And if you weren't watching the map move properly, I think you would have only seen it move a small bit, and you can see a tree which clearly could be Foxtrot. And so if you forget to read the other areas of the map, you may just go for Foxtrot straight away. But I do think placing the linear thicket with Bravo and Delta at either end really helped with that. And I can see from the final task that a lot of you did manage to do that eventually. But also this 4th task being Echo, 143 also went with Alpha after going with Alpha for the first task, and there were also a few for 0 as well. I am a bit surprised by that, to be honest, as I think there would have been a bit more confidence in the Alpha to start with. However, this does show that psychologically it was playing on your mind a lot, and so were doubting your answers to the previous tasks like I was for a small bit, and that did make you put Alpha rather than Echo, which was the right answer. So well done if you did manage to get that station right, as I think it was the hardest of the day. And then this was all that was fairly low with the percentages, apart from 2 little things that I do want to look at very quickly, which were the 3rd task in Station 3, which had 31%, with 316 going with Foxtrot and 150 going with 0. This was the one where Foxtrot was the bottom stairs, and to me it was very clear it was on the wrong set of stairs, but it does seem like only a third of you managed to spot that, so well done if you did. And then in Station 7 as well, the 3rd one being Foxtrot or 0 again, with 223 realising it was a 0, but 242 going with Foxtrot, and Foxtrot was definitely on the 2nd piece of play equipment. It's just this piece of play equipment was mapped as a fence, and it definitely resembled a fence, so I'm not surprised by how it was mapped, and I did think it was definitely a 0, but I'm also not surprised that just over half of you did go with Foxtrot, so well done again if you did manage to get that task right. But also those are really the only low percentages in today, as most of them were quite high. You can see the rest of them in this station were almost all above 90%, so well done for doing really well today and getting quite a lot right. It was just those key tasks which really quite a lot of people did get wrong. And that does bring us to the end of today's event. With me making no mistakes, we have nothing to look back on in terms of the answers, so let's go and have a look at the results instead. And you will see that I have actually moved up with today's result into first place after 2 events, 1.4 points ahead of Christian in second place after he came 7th today, and Marcelo 0.6 points behind Christian. So it does look like I'm starting to get a small lead, but remember, it is your best 5 of 8 scores that will count. So even though these top guys had a slightly lower score today, they will be discarding 3 of them, and I'm not really in a safe place yet. There's still a lot of time for people to catch up, so we will have to see what happens with that. And then also we have Andre 0.4 points behind Marcelo and Marit 0.3 points behind him. So it is already looking very close. Moving on to the clubs then, it's no surprise to see that Massey are in the lead after they've won both the events now. But MDoc have moved into second. They are now 9 points ahead of Massey after their second place today, and are 10 points ahead of Linkoping's OK coming third today. So we are already getting a spread in the top 3 teams. But again, with 5 of the 8 scores counting, there's still a long way to go, and some teams having a lower score could really make up for it in the next few weeks. But 3 points behind Linkoping's we have Krakow, and then another 8 points behind them we have Bratislava. So it is still going to be very close for the clubs, and then also for the countries. Again, it's no surprise to see that the Italians are in first place. They are 12 points ahead of the Finns after they've won again today, and then the Finns are 4 points ahead of the Swedes. So other than first, it is definitely looking a lot closer in the countries competition, with GBR 6 points behind the Swedes, and then the Germans 15 points behind the Brits. So again, we will have to see how this plays out when you join me in the next 2 competitions next week. But for now, that is the end of today's event. Again, thank you to Pavel and Jan for putting this on. I do think it was very fun and a really enjoyable one to round off this first week. But that is going to be the end of today's video, so thank you all again for watching. If you'd like to like the video, as always, if you enjoyed it, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, selecting the notification button next to the subscribe button and clicking all to make sure you're notified whenever I release a video. And also, as always, be remembering to share these videos. Again, we had about 800 people on the leaderboards today, but I do reckon we can extend this to a much wider community. And so, as always, be sharing these with any orienteers that you know aren't already on the simulator, and get them going with these events. And then finally, as always, make sure you're commenting down below anything you think I've missed from these videos, analysis wise, or small little extra bits that you want me to add. And I will join you again next week for event 3 of the A category in TORUS Season 3.